We want to welcome everyone to the 2021 Vision Training for Scribe districts. As we introduce ourselves to you as the facilitator team, I am Jill Petrosinski, and I come to you from District 6510.
And I'm Rita Esterly from District 6080.
Kathy Smith from 5960 up in the cold North Minnesota.
Laura Carey, District 6580.
Glenn Vanderford, District 6760 in Tennessee.
Thank you all. We just took you through what you'll do when you do a club visioning in a virtual world. You'll ask the participants to rename themselves on the screen, just like I asked you. And we want them to put their name and their role in the district. So what we asked of you was just to do your district number, but similarly, you would ask them to rename themselves. In a virtual world, you'd also educate them on how to use the Zoom, just like we went through. We want maximum participation by the club members. Now, hopefully the club liaison has gone through all this with a little practice, but to be sure, we take a few minutes at the start of each session just to make sure everyone has the maximum experience. Now, if you're in person or virtual, we're going to have some rules of the room. So here's an example of what we ask of them in an on-site setting. Again, we want to minimize the distractions, let them know they will have periodic breaks, and encourage everyone to participate. Next, then you would introduce yourself as we did. And if you're in person, you would not only introduce yourself, you would ask the participants to introduce themselves. If on site, it'd be helpful. So this is kind of what you'd say. It would be helpful to us if we could go around the room and have each of us tell us who you are. Give us your name, your club, the number of years you've been in Rotary. And then you would give a direction. Let's start here and go around the room. Now for virtual, it's a little bit different. You'd say something similar. It'd be helpful to us if each one of you could tell us who you are. I will call you by your first name, and then please unmute, share your name, your club, and the number of years of Rotary that you've been in. So we'll just use a few as an example. Dave, please unmute. Tell us your club and the number of years you've been in Rotary. Dave Schaefer.
Dave Schaefer. I've been in Rotary. I'm in the Hudson Daybreak Rotary, and I've been in Rotary for 33 years.
Thank you. Michael Erickson.
Michael Erickson. I'm in the Scheinberg Hoffman Estates Rotary Club, and I will be in for 32 years in coming May.
Thank you. And Joe Kavorik.
Yes, thank you. The name is Joe Kovarik. I'm past president of the club number 10 in St. Paul, and 42 years in Rotary.
Thank you. So that's just an example. And notice, because we had some people that may have had multiple people with the same first name, you may have to use their last name as well. Our agenda today will be a general session to brush up on the entire process, and then we're going to break out into the specific roles to be learned. Then at the end, we're going to come back for a wrap up of the general session and time for questions. We're going to start with an overview of what visioning tools look like in person and virtual. The process of visioning has 10 steps. Rita?
Those 10 steps you will go through in club visioning are this. First, the status assessment, which is the club profile and the Rotary Visioning Questionnaire, which we call the RVQ. Then you would do introductions and rules of the room or rules of the Zoom, followed by the PowerPoint presentation, which sets them up for doing the extraction. Of course, they've had the writing exercise ahead of time, so they've already filled that out for this event. Next, the extraction, which gets on paper all the ideas they've generated, and then 2 rounds of voting, followed by the summary or synthesis, which gives them a picture of what they created. Then the master plan, which organizes their ideas to accomplish in the next 3 years. Then from those ideas, action plans are developed, which takes each idea and creates who will do what by when. After that, the vision to success, in which members volunteer to do what needs to be done to accomplish those goals. There is also a guide sent to the president that helps them to be successful with those 6 steps. This process translates into several roles your team will play. The lead facilitator will assign the roles to the team. Those roles are as follows. The visioning chair or coordinator for the district will be the first contact with the club who wants to hold a club visioning event. He or she will ask the district visioning facilitators who are available on a couple of dates or with a virtual session, preferably 2 dates within the same week. Once a team of facilitators who can accommodate the date or dates of the club visioning event are selected, a lead is chosen by the district visioning chair or coordinator. The lead makes the team assignments of roles and communicates with the club for the setup and all the prior communication that is needed. Additionally, the lead sends the documents both prior to and post-event. I will explain the prior documents now and the post-event ones after you come back from the breakout rooms. So the prior to the event, the club lead sends some emails to the club liaison, giving instructions on how to set up the club visioning event and the documents the club liaison will need to send to the club. Now, in particular, the following documents will be sent. First, the Rotary Visioning Questionnaire that we call the RVQ. This, the lead will explain, is to be sent to the club members in a SurveyMonkey. Secondly, the writing exercise that would be sent to only those chosen who are going to participate in the club visioning event. Thirdly, the club profile. That's to be filled out by the club president, so the facilitators have some knowledge of the club. And fourth, if virtual, the lead would also send the club liaison a registration link for the participants of the Zoom club visioning event. They must register in order to be put in appropriate breakout rooms for the practice they will do with the action plan. Also, if virtual, the person who has the role of tech host sets up the Zoom meeting link and sends it to the lead to forward to the club liaison. You will learn more about that in the tech host breakout today. Additionally, if virtual, the lead works with the tech host to set up a tech rehearsal. Now, this should be done before every club visioning event. The tech rehearsal is important because the team will vary. So the tech rehearsal, in the tech rehearsal, you get practice working with each other and to work out the technical aspects of each of your virtual venue presence. For example, some will have computers that can support a virtual background for visioning. Others will not. You need to check the lighting, the voice, and the video of each member. The lead also asks the team to be online 30 minutes before the visioning event starts for a tech check for video and for voice. Now let's return to the description of the other specific roles. In both the in-person and the virtual, there needs to be a presenter who makes introductions and presents the PowerPoint. Then there needs to be an extractor who draws out the ideas for the participants. The scribe who charts the ideas, handles the voting, and does the summary and synthesis. The planner who presents the master plan, the action plan, the practice of the action plan, and the next steps, which we call vision to success. And that one is a new role. Each facilitator may have more than one roles. Like for the on-site event, 4 facilitators are needed so that during extraction, you can have an extractor, 2 scribes, and what we call a runner, a traffic cop who hangs the newsprint on the walls. In the virtual venue, 3 facilitators can easily accommodate extraction, with 1 extracting, 1 scribing, and 1 reading the chat. So let's do a poll to find out which roles you are familiar with. Please check any role that you have done in the past. Note that you can check as many as you want to. So have you been a lead, a presenter, an extractor, a scribe, a summarizer synthesizer, or have you done the next steps, which is who will do what by when? Okay. Looks like a lot of you have done the scribe role. Many of you, the extractor, presenter, lead. Oh, you all are very experienced with the roles. Thank you so much for doing that poll. So let's go over the agendas now for both in-person and virtual. Most of you are familiar with the setup for the in-person club visioning. However, look at 8 to 9 time slot. We have created 2 new documents to share with the clubs to help them to be more successful. So you take time to explain that master plan and the action plan. Then you take 15 minutes to have them practice developing an action plan, after which you get volunteers for how to take those ideas and achieve them. Next, Jill will tell us about the setup.
So let's look at the whole process, both in person and virtually, before we break out into the specific roles. You're going to need a setup in both of the venues. If you're on site, the setup for in-person envisioning is on the left side of your screen. You'll see on the first photo, the room needs to be set up in a U shape. In the second photo, it shows the easel with the Post-it wall chart pads. You're going to need 2 of those easels with flip charts. You'll also need lots of wall space around the room. In the third photo, you see you also need a projection screen set up, plus a projector and a laptop computer with a table to put them on. And you'll need to provide food for the participants. It's best to have a box-style dinner or lunch, which makes for a really easy cleanup. The food is provided at the very start of the session. Additionally, you'll need tent cards, and you'll ask the participants to put their names in huge letters so that you can see that with the number of years and the position in the club at the bottom in smaller numbers and letters. Well, if you're virtual, the setup is on the right side of the screen. We do recommend the Zoom platform, and your technical host will need to set up a Zoom link for both 2-hour sessions or for one long session if that's what you choose. If possible, have the 2-session event at the same time of day for both sessions, 2 hours long, 2 to no more than 5 days apart. The lead will also check with the liaison to find out who will introduce the session. Will it be the president of the club or the club liaison? At the appointed time, the lead cues the spokesperson for the club to welcome the participants and then introduces the lead. The lead takes over and introduces him or herself and has each team member do the same. Then the lead makes a few opening comments to affirm who the club is today, setting the stage for where they want to be in the future. And we found it useful to use this pattern. So you'd say something like, "We're very excited to be here to help facilitate your club visioning event. Clear your mind of your busy day and be here with us right now." Let's start by taking a look at this club as it stands today. Then you're going to reflect on what the president gave you on the club profile and what you know about the club from your research. So you'd say something like, "You are the Rotary Club of ABC. You were chartered in 1955. You have 42 members. Your demographics are 60% men and 40% women. You have a median year of membership of 12, and you usually have about 24 members attending your meetings. You raise $20,000 per year from your fundraisers, and your club collectively donates $5,000 to the Rotary Foundation. Your club members spend about 500 hours of service projects each year. So welcome. And now let's see who we have here with us." The lead then would hand the session over to the presenter, And the presenter then would have everyone introduce themselves. Glenn?
Thank you, Jill. As the presenter, let's take a look at the introduction. We went over this earlier, but let's review it again. They give their name, the number of years they have been in Rotary, and their position in the club, such as treasurer or a member. You either go around the room if in person, or you call on them, each one, their first name virtually, to have them unmute and to respond. Then follow through into the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint presentation provides the context by which the visioning was structured. It explains the important aspects that are very important in creating a healthy and vibrant club, as well as the outcomes that a club can expect. The PowerPoint is presented in both venues.
Laura?
So if on site, you will give them a mindset of extracting what past with past tense verbs. Then state the question and obtain responses. When obtaining responses, repeat what the person says. You need to watch the pace so the two scribes can capture all of the ideas. So repeating the response is important for pacing. If several people raise their hand, acknowledge each with an order of speaking. Work through all the questions in the writing exercise. Now, if virtual, again, do all the things I just stated, plus you will need to be reading the chat, as you can ask the participants to not only raise their hands, but put their ideas in the chat. When you read the chat, be sure to state the person's name and the idea clearly so everyone can hear. The scribe might be copying and pasting, but you need to read the idea so it is acknowledged and everyone hears it for later voting purposes. Another team member can help you monitor the raised hands and the chat. Once all the ideas are extracted in both in-person and virtual, you might need to move some ideas to different categories for voting. Jill, back to you.
Thank you, Laura. If you're on site, you will use two scribes as demonstrated on the screen, and they capture the ideas on the newsprint. If you're virtual, the scribe will actually be a single person, and they will capture the ideas on a shared Zoom screen using SurveyMonkey. We'll go over that a lot in the scribe breakout role. For voting, if you're on site, you will be voting on ideas with both blue and red dots. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a second, but you'll see that the newsprint that was used by the scribes is posted all around the room. So again, they'll be able to vote. Well, if you're virtual, the participants will actually be using a SurveyMonkey link. It gets posted in the chat during the meeting, and that allows the participants to vote electronically. Again, we're going to go through that a lot in the Scribe breakout. This slide shows how the summary of the results are shared. So you would actually, if you're on site, walk around the room. There would be a team member assigned to this, and they would be taking notes, looking at the top 3 ideas from each of the areas, plus fundraising and foundation. And you'd use the following structure to say something like this. In the year 2023, the Rotary Club of ABC increased your ability to adapt by having fun through service and increasing your membership types to be more flexible. You expanded your reach by growing to 70 members who are now 50% male and 50% female. You're recognized as the #1 contributor to the betterment of ABC Town, and you've enhanced your engagement by actively listening to your members' desires to be more family-friendly, and you implemented a Young Professionals Leadership Program. You increased your impact by starting your signature project of the Youth Center, where you utilized a district grant for iPads to be used for e-mentoring. And you raised $50,000 at the Rotary Ramble, which allowed you to rehab the youth center. You are a 100% Paul Harris Fellow Club supporting the Rotary Foundation, and you have an annual endowment contribution of $50,000. So you do something like that. Now, how do you do it in a virtual world? Well, we recommend you either show the SurveyMonkey results on the slide, as we have demonstrated here, when you have 2 sessions. It gives you a little time to actually create that on a slide, or you can share the live screen. And again, you'd use a similar structure. So you just do it virtually. In the year 2023, the Rotary Club of ABC increased your ability to adapt by having fun through service, increasing your membership types to be more flexible, and blah, 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 just like I said. So as you can see, the synthesis or summary is very similar whether you're on-site or virtual. The most important thing is that you tie it with enthusiasm to the Rotary International Action Plan, because you're transforming them to believe in the vision that they just created. The tools are just a little different on-site versus virtual. Kathy, what's the next step?
Thanks, Jill. The next step is the planner role. The planner role will tell the participants about how to construct a 3-year master plan and action plans. In learning theory, practicing what one has learned serves to ingrain learning in the brain. So time is spent during the visioning session having the participants actually practice developing an action plan. This helps them to practice the skills they'll need to achieve their vision. In an on-site session, they're broken into small groups. In a virtual session, they're sent to breakout rooms. In each method, they're given 15 minutes to practice creating an action plan for one of the goals the facilitator has chosen out of their list of extracted ideas. When brought back together, they have a brief chance to share the experience with each other as an entire group and to feel empowered with a clear expectation of what they'll need to do to accomplish their plan. The Vision to Success volunteers are much more eager to step up with having not only had a practice session, but having witnessed the enthusiastic participation of their fellow club members in that process. Rita?
Then when you do the Vision to Success, if you're on site, you would use the newsprint to ask for volunteers to perform the next steps, which we call Vision to Success. For instance, you will take the ideas. Who will take the ideas? Then you ask, who will generate a motto? Who will share the ideas with the club? Who will develop the process by which the master plan is developed? And who will be the impact leader or group to be sure the ideas are successful? Does that sound familiar to you? Well, if virtual, you do the same thing, only you would use a Word document to capture the information about the volunteers. So before we ask you if there's any questions, let's do a poll. Which of the roles did you sign up for during registration to learn more about? And this can be multiple choice. Did you sign up to do the tech host, which is a new role, the presenter, the extractor, the scribe, or the planner, which is also a new role? Okay, it looks like a lot of you have signed up to do the extractor role, presenter role, less on the tech host and scribe, and then a few of you on the planner role. That planner role is pretty important too. So if you don't get it this time, please sign up for it another time, because those are all the new documents and the new ways we do the last hour of the visioning event. Okay, let's stop and see if there are any questions. Please either type your question in the chat or raise your hand, and I will call on you to unmute and ask your questions.
Nothing in the chat so far, and no hands raised.
Boy, we've really explained it quite well then. All right. Okay.
I have
We
this
are.
one.
Oops. Yes.
I know that sometimes you end up with a little bit of compromise on your team and you end up with a situation where somebody bowed out. What roles would you say are absolutely one person, and which ones could you quickly combine or put multiple hats on and that you found still works pretty well? In other words, when you have to shrink your team a little bit, which ways can you shrink it?
Well, on person, you would need 2 scribes and an extractor. One of the scribes can run around the room and put the newsprint up. So you really could do it that way. Kathy, do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think you can be pretty flexible when you're on site, but I think a minimum of 3. And if you got there and you didn't have a third one, at worst case, and we don't recommend it, but you could always pull somebody from the audience. I'm guessing that on the virtual, but I'll hand that off to Jill, that the tech person is one of the people you can't really replace. It's a critical role, but you could have a couple, 2 or 3, 2 other people working all of the other pieces. Jill?
Yeah, you can have one person who's pretty tech savvy serve in multiple roles. Like a tech host could also be the scribe. If it gets a little busy, we do recommend that those be separate roles. But you cannot do a virtual without having someone in that tech host role. So it's mandatory that someone be in that role. Whether they wear another hat is really up to their skills.
Yeah,
we do have a couple of questions in the chat, Rita.
And also Stu has his hand raised. So let's have Stu say what you need to say, and then we'll go to the chat.
Thanks.
Stu?
I'm curious about other technical methods of capturing and interacting with the audience rather than only SurveyMonkey. Have you had experience, and how did those work?
I'll take that one. We'll be going through that in detail in the Scribe breakout. We did pilot several different platforms, and SurveyMonkey is the one that we found to be the most beneficial, in particular with sharing the results. But there are some requirements to include having a paid SurveyMonkey account. So there are other tools that can be used, but the standard that we train to will be SurveyMonkey. So like Google Docs, some people have had success with that, but pros and cons of all of those platforms.
Stu, did that answer your question? Okay, great. Questions in the chat then?
Yes. Rita, we have Nikki from District 7040 ask, please tell us the length of the second sessions, or of the 2 sessions, excuse me, for a virtual session, for virtual visioning.
Jill?
So when you do 2 separate sessions, there's a variety of a way to handle it, but we found the adult attention span really doesn't go beyond 2 hours, and it starts waning at 90 minutes. So we recommend that you do no longer than a 2-hour session. You're just going to lose their focus and everybody's tired. There are a couple of different places, and we'll talk about that in the tech host breakout as well, as to when that break happens, but it's in the voting process where the break will occur at some point. Did that answer that, Nikki?
Okay. Next one.
Yes.
Laura?
We have Bill from District 6460. How will we set up a room in the in-person events for social distancing?
Kathy?
I think that you could do kind of an alternating, a double U. So a U up front and then a U in back, kind of recognizing that you would have to be, follow all the COVID protocols, but really just trying to figure out how to separate people. So you could do a U with a table up front and then have a couple people sit wider apart and then a person back behind that. I think it's going to depend on the audience size, but I think it's very doable.
Any other questions, Laura?
Yes, we do. We have one more here. This is from Ted, District 7070. If you are doing a club session, why do you have to have everyone introduce themselves? They all know each other well. It takes time to do this.
Who wants to handle that, Kathy?
Yeah, I think we actually, when we start the introductions, we say, of course, all of you know each other, but we don't know who you are. So could we go around the room and ask them to introduce themselves? The interesting thing is you might think they all know each other and know how many years they've been in Rotary, but there's a lot of people in that room that don't know those things about each other too. So there's some eye-opening things that come out of those introductions, certainly for the facilitators, but also for the club members.
Thank you. Any other questions?
We have no other questions in the chat or raised hands at this moment.
Perfect. Okay, now we are going to go to the breakout rooms so that you'll be broken out into your specific role that you signed up for so that you can learn that role in more detail. You each signed up for that specific role when you registered. You will now be sent to the breakout rooms for 60 minutes to learn more details about that specific role. Our tech host, Brian, will now send you to your breakout room.
Everyone should be back now.
Okay, perfect. Well, welcome back. With a show of hands, who learned anything new in their breakouts? Oh, look at all those hands raised. Okay, wonderful. Oh my, great. Okay, so let's finish up now with what the lead does post-event. Once the club visioning is over, then the lead will send the club liaison the following documents. If virtual, the document on which the scribe wrote the brainstorm ideas with the designated top 3 or 4 choices. If on site, someone will get all the newsprint. The second thing that will be sent is the PowerPoint template to be used at the meeting in which the group shares the results of the visioning with the club. And then thirdly, the Vision to Success guide that helps the club understand the process of taking their ideas to implementation so the goals can be achieved. Now remember, all the reference documents should be downloaded from the IVFC website by your district visioning chair and provided to your district visioning team. The district visioning chair is currently the only one who needs a password to the IVFC website to be able to download. Additionally, the lead or the club visioning chair, or the district visioning chair, will check back with the club after a time to see how they're progressing. If additional help is needed, the lead or a designatee from the team will contact the club to provide the help needed. So, are there any questions about what you would send post-visioning event? Okay, Leland.
I'm just wondering, from those who have gone through that experience, what's a typical amount of help or area where a club needs help if they're having trouble getting from vision to success? So if we offer help, I'm just saying we need to know how to help them at that point.
Okay, who would like to take that? Kathy?
Sure. Sometimes I don't think the club knows that they need help. And that's why we talk about the club impact, either leader or team, so that there's somebody in the club pushing and pressing to say, how are we going to keep this alive? We suggest that the assistant governor can attend any of the visioning events as an observer, and that the assistant governor can also be the one then that is pushing back and saying to the club, how are you doing? Are things progressing for you? Are your committees stumbling? How can I help bring resources to you as the club? And then finally, the third thing, and this is in the Vision to Success Club Guide, really encourage the club when they're done with their plan to make an announcement in their community to say the Rotary Club of X came together and here's what we're going to be working on over the next 3 years. I think there's an implicit opportunity and pressure that comes with doing that. If the Rotary Club tells everybody in the community, here's what we're going to be doing, there's an expectation that they're going to see something. I think it also becomes a recruiting tool because there may be people in the community that say, hey, I've always wanted to work on that. And I see the Rotary Club's going to be working on that. Maybe make contact with them to see how I can participate. So there's lots of different venues, and often it's not coming out of the Rotary Club itself. It's that they're not recognizing or figuring out, how do I keep pushing forward? How do I keep pushing our members?
Okay, before I have Stu ask his question, I'm going to go over those documents again. They are the document that you get a template for if you are in person for all the wall charts. A template will be sent to you, an Excel spreadsheet, or someone will get the documents that were written in the visioning event by the scribe. So that's the first thing. Whatever the ideas were generated, that's the first document. The second document is the PowerPoint template. So when you get the ideas put on the template, then you can share that with the club. And there's a document for a PowerPoint that has a template for you so that you can put your particular information on it to share it with the club. And then the third document, and I will put that in the chat for you, is a Vision to Success guide that helps the club understand the process of implementation. Stu, did that give you the information that you needed? Did you get all three of those?
Yes, thanks, Rita.
Okay, and I'll put that in, and I think, Richard, you have a question.
Well, a little old school, I guess, but you mentioned a manual. Is there a printed version of the information you need, or is it all online and in the IVH website?
Kathy, would you please answer that question? You did a great job in our breakout.
Yeah, we're madly dashing and working on putting together more printed materials. Right now, as a club coordinator, when you sign in to the website, there are videos to show you each step of the visioning process. We're working on resource guides, written resource guides to go through each of those steps that give you some additional ideas and how to use that video. And the final part of each of those resource guides, how do I practice with my team? How can I take my team through practicing to do each of these steps? So hopefully shortly, the videos are up now, the guides are in half done at least, and so we'll get those up even if they're in rough form, and then we can continue to dress them up.
Thank you.
Okay, then. Jill, let's show the participants how helpful the website can be to them.
Thank you, Rita. I know you all have been asking for this. There's a couple of things to point out. Your teams have full access to the training videos, of which these sessions will eventually be online. Under the rivisionfacilitation.org, that is the public website of IVFC, you will see the tabs across the top. Under useful links, you'll see it takes you right to our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel will give you the opportunity to actually sort by playlists, and you can go through and see exactly what session you want to look at. So if you want to go through the roles of the team, you can see there's one video. If you want to see how to promote in your district, there are 3 videos. The deep dive sessions that many of you have been participating in, those are all recorded. There are 4 videos. So we have those available for all of your teams to view their roles. As a district visioning chair, it's the responsibility of that individual to distribute the resources that have been purchased through IVFC subscription to their team members. That is the individual who will actually have a username and password, but the entire team does not need access to the site. They can get the training materials. So if I was a district visioning chair, I would log in, and you'll notice now we have a whole different option of menus that have popped up, and all of the resources that we have talked about today. So for instance, the club visioning follow-up that Rita just went through, whether you're on-site or virtual, are readily available and can be downloaded and distributed to your teams. If you're looking at the visioning event delivery, you need the PowerPoint. So this is no different than how it's always been. The district visioning chair is responsible for downloading the writing exercise, the PowerPoint, the Vision to Success template, all the things that you've been trained on. And we do have training videos that if the district visioning chair wants to work with their individual teams for the virtual delivery, just snippets of each of these sections. Some of those will actually be replaced by the training that we're doing through these workshops. Maybe not today's version, but later today, because some of the videos might have gotten missed. So any questions at all about the website before we scoot on? Looks like we've got something in the chat. I do have a question about the background logo that we're using. That is something that has been requested. We've found in any virtual delivery, it does help the team stand out a little bit, whether you're on site and you all wear, like a white shirt and dark pants, or if you use a background. So we'll be happy to get that up. And again, we'll put that into the resources that are available for the district visioning chair to download to distribute to the team. Please respect that these are all copyrighted and branded materials, and that is why they are not available for full public access. They are designed to be downloaded by the subscribed district's visioning chairs. Any other questions on the website? All right, not seeing any. So we will go ahead and wrap up this session. And again, just remember that all team members have access to that YouTube channel and the public side of the website. That's going to be beneficial for your teams to see the new materials actually delivered in a live session. And when they go through the visioning, it really is going to re-energize the group. It's going to create continuity for leadership. Remember, you're providing a very valuable service to your district when you volunteer to take a club through visioning. Thank you all for taking the time to relearn the updated materials and the more relevant form of club visioning in alignment with the Rotary International Action Plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.